What's good, everyone? This is Monaro and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be covering chapters 23 to 28. Hope you enjoy.
Daenerys looks out for the first time onto the vast, empty, flat plain of the Dothraki Sea and Ser Jorah Mormont beside her. Daenerys sees she has outdistanced the rest of Drogo's Khalasar, who are still climbing the ridge behind her. Among them she can see her brother Viserys struggling with his riding. The sight brings back the memory of Illyrio Mopatis offering to let Viserys stay in Pentos as his guest. Viserys had refused and insisted on coming with the Khalasar to ensure that Drogo would give him the army that he promised. Daenerys commands Jorah and the others to wait. Mormont comments that Daenerys is starting to sound like a queen, but Daenerys corrects him, calling herself a Khaleesi. As she rides out alone, Daenerys reflects on how the days of the journey have hardened her body. She no longer has open saddle sores, nor does she suffer unbearable pains after a day's ride. At first, Drogo would ignore Daenerys to spend his days talking, drinking, and racing with his blood riders, leaving her to eat meals alone or with Viserys or Jorah Mormont. Yet every night, Drogo would come and ride her from behind. She had been miserable until she had dreamt of a dragon that engulfed her in flame and cleansed her. After that, each day had been easier than the one before it, and she had found pleasure in the new sights of the journey, even starting to enjoy sex with Drogo. Once she is totally alone, Daenerys decides to dismount and take off her boots so she can feel the earth. Suddenly, Viserys is there, screaming and grabbing her. He is furious that she commanded him to stay on the ridge with the others. For the first time in her life, Daenerys shoves him back. For a moment, Viserys is shocked, but then the rage returns and Daenerys sees that he intends to hurt her badly. Before he can, Drogo's whip catches Viserys around the neck and pulls him to the ground. Her handmaiden Elia translates for them as Drogo asks if Daenerys would like to see Viserys dead or disfigured as punishment for his attack. Daenerys declines, but tells them to take Viserys' horse and make him walk, an emasculating punishment among the horse lords. Viserys, now recovered enough to shout, orders Ser Jorah to kill the Dothraki and discipline Daenerys, but the exiled knight makes the decision to turn to Daenerys and agree that Viserys should walk. Daenerys is amazed that she hit Viserys and asks Jorah if she has woken the dragon in Viserys. Jorah replies her brother Rhaegar was the last dragon, while Viserys is less than a shadow of a snake. Daenerys insists that Viserys is still the rightful king, but when Jorah asks if she would want her brother as the king, she realizes that Viserys would not be a good king. Even so, Daenerys remains convinced that the people of Westeros are praying for Viserys' return until Jorah explains that peasants only pray for rain, health, and a summer that never ends. Daenerys declares that Viserys will never be able to retake the Seven Kingdoms, realizing that she has known this for a long time. Viserys could not lead an army even if her husband gave him one. Daenerys races her silver ahead of Jorah and the others. It is dusk by the time she returns to the Khalasar. Daenerys imagines the laughter in the Khalasar when news spread about Viserys. By the time her brother can return, everyone in the camp will know him as a walker. As she enters her tent, Daenerys uses a finger to lightly touch her dragon eggs, and for a moment she sees scarlet flames before her eyes. When she touches the eggs, they feel hot, which she attributes to the sunshine during the day. Daenerys remembers all of the stories about other magical creatures and wonders why there should not also be dragons. Her Dothraki handmaidens, Irri and Jiqui, tell her that dragons were killed by men. However, her Lysene handmaiden, Doria, a former sex slave, tells Daenerys a story about a time when there were two moons in the sky, but one came too close to the sun and cracked to release the first dragons. The story ends by claiming that one day the other moon will crack and the dragons will return. The other handmaidens make fun of the story, insisting that the moon is a goddess, not an egg. Daenerys sends Irri and Jiqui away but orders Doria to stay with her for dinner. When Drogo returns, she takes him outside because Dothraki customs say that everything of importance must be done under the open sky. When Drogo tries to take her from behind, Daenerys tells him that she wants to see his face and climbs on top of him. She rides Drogo as fiercely as she's ever ridden her horse, and in the moment of his pleasure, Drogo calls out her name. On the far side of the Dothraki Sea, on her 14th name day, Daenerys' handmaiden Jiqui brushes her stomach and tells her that she is pregnant. Bran watches from his window seat as Rickon plays with the direwolves in the yard below. Shaggy Dog's fur has darkened to black and his eyes are fiery green. Summer has turned to silver and smoke with yellow gold eyes that sees everything. Summer is smaller and warier than Greywind, but Bran thinks he is the smartest. Bran realizes he is crying. He wants to be down there laughing and running. Bitterly, he declares that the crow in his dreams lied about being able to fly. Old Nan agrees that crows are all liars and offers to tell Bran a story about a crow, but Bran is not in the mood and snaps that he hates her stories. Old Nan explains that the stories are not hers. They are before her and after her. Bran remembers his father telling him that she was called Old Nan even when he was a child, possibly the oldest person in the 7 kingdoms. Nan has outlived all of her own family except the simple-minded stable boy named Hodor. Bran insists that he hates the stories no matter whose they are. Unperturbed, Old Nan offers to tell a story about a boy who hated stories. Bran does not want any stories. He wants his parents and to run and climb and ride like before. His father had promised he could ride a real horse south, but left without him. Bran broods on all the people who have left Winterfell and seems to have forgotten him. Only Robb and Rickon remain, and even Robb has changed. He never smiles now, and he is so busy as the Lord of Winterfell that he has little time for Bran. When Nan offers to tell him about Brandon the Builder, Bran insists that his favorite stories were the scary ones. Nan replies, "Oh, my sweet summer child, what do you know of fear?" Bran listens intently as Nan begins the story of the first time the others came into the darkness of winter. Thousands and thousands of years ago, a winter like no other, and there came a night that lasted a generation. In that darkness came the others, cold, dead things that hated fire, iron, the touch of the sun, and every creature with warm blood. They overran holdfasts and cities, and all the swords of men could not stop their advance. Women and children were not spared, and the others ate the flesh of children. This was before the Andals and the Rhoynar had come, and when the first men lived in the lands that they had taken from the children of the forest. The last hero of the first men set out to find the children with his sword, a dog, his horse, and 12 companions. All of the hero's companions and even his dog died, and he was left in despair of ever finding the children as the others closed in. Old Nan's story is interrupted by Maester Luwin, who tells Bran that he is needed in the Great Hall to greet Tyrion Lannister and some men of the Night's Watch, who are down from the wall with a message from his brother Jon. Bran complains that he wants to hear the rest of Nan's story, but Nan tells him that the stories can wait. Hodor, the 7-foot stable boy, carries Bran down to the hall with Maester Luwin struggling to keep up. Robb is sitting in his father's high seat, wearing his armor with his sword across his lap. Even Bran knows what it means to greet a guest with an unsheathed sword, and can feel the hostility in the room. Robb makes a point of only offering his welcome to the Night's Watch men. The meaning is not lost on Tyrion, who knows that he is not welcome and calls Robb a boy. Robb sees, insisting that he is a lord. Tyrion responds that if that is so, he needs to show a lord's courtesy. When Bran is brought forward, Tyrion notes the news of his survival was true and declares that Starks are hard to kill. Robb declares that the Lannisters had best remember that and lifts Bran unto the high seat. Tyrion asks how Bran fell, but Bran insists that he never falls. Maester Luwin is quick to add that Bran does not remember. Tyrion calls this curious, then asks if Bran likes to ride. Immediately, the Maester insists that Bran has lost the use of his legs and so cannot ride. Tyrion responds that with the right saddle and horse, even a cripple can ride. Angered, Bran insists that he is not a cripple, but Tyrion retorts that if that is true, then he is not a dwarf. Tyrion hands the Maester a paper containing plans he has drawn up for a saddle for Bran. The Maester states that it will work and he should have thought of it himself. Tyrion responds that the idea came easier to him since the design is similar to his own saddle. Robb is suspicious of Tyrion's motive, to which Tyrion replies that Jon asked it of him and he has a weak spot for cripples, bastards, and broken things. Rickon comes in from outside with the 3 direwolves, who immediately start growling and surrounded Tyrion. Theon comments that the wolves do not like Tyrion's smell. Tyrion says that it is time he took his leave, but the wolves assault him before he can move more than a step. They are called off in time by the boys. Tyrion finds the hostility of the wolves to be interesting and states nothing is harmed save his dignity. Even Robb is shaken and says he does not know why the wolves attacked. Before Tyrion can leave, Maester Luwin confers with Robb, who then offers the hospitality of Winterfell to Tyrion. Tyrion declines the invitation as a false courtesy, declaring that he will stay in the inn he saw outside the wall. Robb then tells the Night's Watchmen they have rooms prepared and invites them for dinner. Bran is looking forward to feasting that night with the Night's Watch. In his room, Bran expresses his excitement at being able to ride again to summer. Bran dreams of climbing and sees the shapes of twisted and grotesque gargoyles, and then he hears them whispering. The gargoyles pull themselves free and climb towards Bran. Bran starts to scream, shouting that he did not hear. He wakes to find Hodor above him. Hodor cleans and dresses him and carries him down to the Great Hall. That evening, Robb and Bran host the Night's Watchmen for dinner. The Black brothers bring the dire tidings of Benjen Stark. Yoren states that Benjen is probably dead, but Robb vehemently disagrees. One of the other brothers assures them that Benjen knows the haunted forest better than anyone and will find his way back. Bran thinks of old Nan's stories and blurts out that Uncle Benjen will be saved by the children of the forest. Maester Luwin tells him the children have been dead for thousands of years, but Yoren disagrees, wondering who's to say what lives beyond the wall. That night, Robb carries Bran up to his bed himself. Robb sits by Bran for a long time and tells him that they will find a horse for him. Bran asks if the others will be coming back. Robb says yes, with much hope in his voice. Robb then tells Bran that he can meet his mother riding his new horse, and later they can visit the wall together. Ned meets with Grand Maester Pycelle in the stifling heat that has covered the city. Pycelle talks about how the small folk claim that the last year of summer is the hottest. The Grand Maester goes on to say that he does not believe this, noting that the Kingmaker's summer was even hotter and broke in the 7th year, leading to a short autumn and a terrible long winter. Then Pycelle digresses about being a young man forging his maester's chain during the reign of King Maekar I. Finally, Pycelle remembers that Ned asked about Jon Arryn and explained that Lord Arryn was melancholy but healthy, then suddenly became ill. He asked Pycelle about a book, and Pycelle remembers noting that something was troubling him. The next day, Lord Arryn was twisted over in pain, unable to get out of bed. Ned mentions that he has heard that Pycelle sent away Lord Arryn's maester. Pycelle states that this was because he felt Maester Coleman didn't understand the older body and was endangering Lord Arryn's life with purging potions. Ned asks if Lord Arryn had any final words. Pycelle responds that Jon Arryn called out the name Robert several times, but does not know if he was talking about the king or his son. His last words were whispered to Lysa Arryn and King Robert. The seed is strong. Next, Ned asks if there was anything unnatural about the death, and follows up by asking if Pycelle had seen anything like this illness before. Pycelle states that he has seen more of illness than he would like to remember, and that every illness is different and yet alike. Eventually, Pycelle says that Jon Arryn's death was no stranger than any other. When Ned mentions that Lysa thinks otherwise, Pycelle says that grief can derange minds, and Lysa's mind was not the best before, seeing enemies in every corner. When Ned suggests that Jon Arryn could have been poisoned, the Grand Maester rebuffs him, asking who would do such a thing. Ned replies that he has heard poison is a woman's weapon. Pycelle replies that poison is the preferred weapon of women, cravens, and eunuchs. He continues by telling Ned that Varys was born a slave in Lys, and that Ned shouldn't trust him. Ned scarcely needs reminding, as he already has had a bad feeling about Varys. Ned excuses himself, but the Grand Maester halts him to offer any other service Ned may require. Ned uses the opportunity to ask for the book Jon Arryn asked for. Pycelle says it is a ponderous tome of lineages that Ned would find boring. Ned insists he would like to see the book in any case, and Pycelle promises to send it to him once he finds it. On the way out, Ned also learns that Queen Cersei was not in King's Landing when Jon Arryn died. Pycelle's parting words are, "I am here to serve," leading Ned to think, yes, but whom? On his return to the Tower of the Hand, Ned finds Arya on the steps standing on one foot. When Ned asks what she is doing, she tells him that Syrio Forel says that a water dancer can stand on one toe for hours. Ned expresses his concerns about her falling down the steps, but Arya states that the water dancer never falls. Then Arya asks if Bran will come to live with them now, and Ned responds that first he must grow stronger. Speaking of Bran leads Ned to recall taking the girls to the Castle Godswood to offer their thanks when the news of Bran's recovery arrived. The girls had gone to sleep and dreamed of Bran while Ned stood vigil all night. While balancing on her leg, Arya asks about Bran's plans to be a knight of the Kingsguard. Ned admits that Bran won't become a knight, but he may become a lord, a consular, an architect, an explorer, or even the High Septon, even while privately noting that Bran will never lie with a woman or father a son. When Arya asks if she can do any of these things, Ned says that she will marry a king and her sons will do these things. Arya replies that that is Sansa, not her. Later, Ned meets with Littlefinger in his solar. Littlefinger, who is watching the Kingsguard practicing in the yard below, starts with small talk about who might win the tourney. This does not interest Ned at all, so he asks Littlefinger to get to the point. Ned cannot find it in himself to trust Littlefinger. Littlefinger tells him that 4 of Jon Arryn's household are still in the city, which surprises Ned, who thought that all had gone back to the Eyrie with Lysa. Littlefinger reveals the names, which include Jon Arryn's squire, Sir Hugh of the Hale. He also reveals that Sir Hugh was knighted by the king after Lord Arryn died. Ned states that he will send for them, but Littlefinger does not think it is a good idea and asks Ned to come to the window. Littlefinger identifies some of the spies among those outside his window. One is Varys, the other is the Queen's. He tells Ned that there are others, and some even he does not know. He cautions Ned to send a man he trusts completely to question these people, rather than doing it himself. Even Varys cannot watch every man in Ned's service every hour of the day. As Littlefinger departs, Ned expresses his gratitude and says he was perhaps wrong to distrust him. Littlefinger fingers his beard and replies that distrusting him is the wisest thing Ned has done since he climbed down off his horse. Jon is helping the other recruits with their swordsmanship when Samwell Tarly The fattest boy he has ever seen enters the yard. Sam nervously explains that he has been told to come there for training, and Pip identifies him by his voice as a lordling from near Highgarden. Sam is immediately ridiculed by Sir Alistair Thorne, who says that they are now sending pigs to man the wall. Although Sam has brought his own armor, none of it is black, so he has to be re-equipped, which requires some ingenuity by the armorer. When Sam returns, Sir Alistair sends Halder, a very strong boy, against him. In under a minute, Sam is on the ground with a broken helm, screaming that he yields. When Sam refuses to stand up, Thorne tells Halder to hit him with the flat of the blade until he gets up. The initial hit is tentative, but Thorne insists that Halder can hit harder and the next blow splits leather. Jon's objections are finally stopped by Pip, but after another blow, Jon shakes him off and states that there is no honor in beating a beaten foe. Jon helps Sam up, which Sir Alistair marks as defending his lady love. Declaring it a training exercise, Thorne sends Halder, Rast, and Albert to get past Jon to beat Sam. Jon braces himself for a hard fight. Sir Alistair has sent 2 boys against him before, but never 3. To Jon's surprise, Pip and Grin come to his aid. The boys going against Jon hesitate, but Jon attacks. Jon soon takes out Halder, but not before taking a damaging blow to his shoulder. Then he helps Pip take down Rast. Once Rast is down, Albert yields, and Sir Alistair leaves in a fury. Halder wrenches off his helmet and throws it across the yard, declaring that he thought he had Jon. Jon admits that he almost did. When Jon attempts to remove his helmet, his shoulder is painful. Sam, his head bloody where his helmet had been split, comes over and helps Jon remove the helmet gently. Sam introduces himself, and Jon introduces himself, Gren, and Pip. Sam thanks them all. When asked why he did not fight back, Sam states that he couldn't because he is a coward. Jon and his friends are speechless. Who would admit that he was a coward? Seeing the response of Jon and his friends, Sam apologizes to them, stating he does not like being a coward. As Sam leaves for the armory, Jon tells him tomorrow he will do better, but Sam insists that he will not. After Sam leaves, Grant states nobody likes cowards and is worried that what others will think if they are associated with a coward. Pip's response is that if Grant met a bear in the woods, he would be too stupid to run away. Grant insists he would run faster than Pip, then attacks Pip when he realizes the trick. For the recruits, mornings are for swordplay and afternoons for other work, which is varied so that the watch can measure a recruit's skill. That afternoon, Jon is sent to spread gravel on top of the wall by himself. This gives him a chance to contemplate Sam. He thinks about Tyrion Lannister's statement about denying a hard truth and realizes that Sam's admission of cowardice took a certain kind of courage. When he enters the common hall, where dinner is almost done, Jon passes his friends and joins Sam, who is sitting by himself. After introducing Ghost and some polite conversation, Jon asks Sam to join him outside to talk. As they walk, Sam admits that he did not think the Night's Watch would be like this. All the buildings are falling down and it is so cold. Jon suggests it must have been warmer where Sam lived, and Sam explains that he had never seen snow until a month ago. Jon leads Sam to the wall, but Sam balks at climbing the great wooden stairs. He replies that there is a winch, but Sam states that he does not like heights. When Jon asks why a boy who is afraid of everything would join the Night's Watch, Sam starts to cry until Ghost licks his face, which makes them both laugh. They continue talking, and before long, Jon starts talking about Winterfell. Jon reveals a dream he's been having of returning to Winterfell to find it completely empty. As he is telling about the dream, Jon thinks about how several arrangements have been made to find Benjen Stark, whose trail just disappeared. In his dream, Jon always finds himself descending the stairs to the crypt in the dark, and it is then that he wakes up. Jon asks if Sam ever dreams of Hornhill. Sam insists that he does not, and that he hated it there. After a long silence, Sam tells the story of why he was sent to the wall. His father, Lord Randall Tarley, was disgusted that his eldest son was so plump, soft, awkward, and squeamish. Sam's interests in music, books, dancing, and soft clothes only made matters worse. Many masters at arms were brought to Hornhill to try to make Sam into the type of man his father wanted. When a second son, Dickon, was finally born, Lord Randall Tarley had given up on Sam. On his 15th name day, Sam says he was escorted to his father in a wood where he was informed that he was to forsake his claim to Hornhill and join the Night's Watch, or else his father would arrange an accident. John finds it strange that Sam tells the story in such a detached voice and does not weep even once. John tells Sam about some of the other recruits, and Sam eventually states that he should get some sleep and plods off. John returns to the common room. His friends explain that they did not shun Sam. There were places on the bench, but Sam was such a craven that he just passed them by. John persuades them all not to beat Sam anymore, whatever Sir Alistair says. Rast, however, insists that if Thorne sends him against Lady Piggy, he will cut off a rasher of bacon, and laughs in John's face. That night, John, with Pip, Gran, and Ghost, visit Rast in his cell. With Ghost's mouth around Rast's throat, John tells Rast that they know where he sleeps. After that, no matter what Sir Alistair does, he cannot get any of the recruits to do anything but tap Sam when they are put up against him. Sam later thanks John and calls him his first friend. John responds that they are not friends but brothers. John realizes that Robb, Bran, and Rickon are his father's sons, but that he has never been one of them. His true brothers are the outcasts of the Night's Watch. He realizes his uncle was right and wonders if he will ever see Benjen again to tell him. Ned and the small council hear City Watch Commander John O'Slint report about the significant increase in crime caused by the influx of people arriving for the upcoming tourney. Slint requests more men. Ned agrees to hire 50 new watchmen, setting Littlefinger to arrange the monetary details. When Littlefinger objects, Ned insists that since he found 40,000 gold dragons for the champion's purse, he should be able to scrape together a few coppers to keep the king's peace. Ned also loans Slint 20 of his own household guard. Ned complains again about the tourney, still irritated that it is to be called the Hands Tourney despite his distaste. Moreover, King Robert still insists that Ned should feel honored. Grand Maester Pycelle points out that a tourney is good for the realm because it brings the great an opportunity for glory and the lowly a respite from their woes. Littlefinger adds that it brings in lots of money, emphasizing full inns and whores walking bow-legged. Lord Renly laughs, telling how his brother Stannis once proposed outlawing brothels, prompting Robert to ask if he wanted to outlaw eating, shitting, and breathing as well. Renly goes on to wonder how Stannis ever fathered his daughter when he goes to his marriage bed like he is marching to a battlefield to do his duty. Everyone laughs except Ned, who is preoccupied by thoughts of when Stannis will return and assume his duties on the council. After the council adjourns, Ned returns to the Tower of the Hand and summons Jory Cassel. As he waits for his horse to be saddled, Ned peruses the book that Jon Arryn had been reading prior to his death, Lineages of the Great Houses by Grand Maester Melian. Its reading had proven extremely tedious, just as Pycelle warned, and scarcely a man alive now had been born when it was written, but Ned is sure Jon Arryn had a reason for reading it. As he browses the section of House Lannister, Ned muses on their long history and the myths of their ancestor, Land the Clever, who stole gold from the sun to brighten his curly hair. Jory arrives and briefs Ned on his interview with one of Jon Arryn's stable boys, the last of the 4 leads provided by Littlefinger. Sir Hugh proved brusque, arrogant, and uninformative. The servant girl could only say that Jon Arryn had been reading too much, concerned about his son's frailty and gruff with his wife. Meanwhile, the pot boy was only able to provide lots of kitchen gossip, including that Lord Stannis had accompanied Lord Arryn to meet an armorer about elaborate new armor. The stable boy proves just as informative. He swears that Lord Arryn was as strong as half a man his age and often went riding with Lord Stannis. This Ned finds strange. As far as he knew, Jon and Stannis were never friendly. Jory says that the stable boy also claims that Stannis and Jon Arryn visited a brothel together. Unfortunately, the boy did not know which brothel. Only the guards that escorted them know, and they were taken back to the Eyrie with Lady Lysa. That Stannis would visit a brothel is very strange because he is so stern and humorless. That Stannis' name keeps coming up and that he has left the city with no word about when he will return also vexes Ned. He wonders why Stannis would leave and decides that something must have frightened him, yet Ned cannot imagine what could have frightened Stannis, who withstood the year-long siege of Storm's End by surviving on rats and boot leather. Both Ned and Jory find it frustrating that everyone that might know the truth is 1,000 leagues away. When Jory asks if he will call Stannis back from Dragonstone, Ned says not yet. Ned plans to visit the armorer himself and decides to wear his doublet with the direwolf sigil so the armorer will know who he is. As Jory dresses him, Ned wonders why Renly was not invited on the rides. Ned does not know what to make of Renly, with his friendly ways and easy smiles. A few days back, Renly showed him a locket with a picture of Marjorie Tyrell. He asked Ned if she resembled Lyanna and seemed disappointed when Ned shrugged. Ned finds it queer that Renly, who looks so much like Robert, would be obsessed with a lady that he thought looked like Lyanna. Ned tells Jory that it would be good if Stannis returned for the tourney, but Jory's response makes Ned more certain that Stannis will not. He also wonders why Lord Arryn would be interested in a showy armor when he had always considered armor something for protection, not ornament. Ned then tells Jory that he better start visiting brothels, which Jory jokingly calls a hard duty. The streets of King's Landing are crowded, but Ned and his guardsmen, Varley and Jax, make it through the crowd to the Mud Gate, where Lord Beric Dondarrion is arriving with his retinue to participate in the Tourney of the Hand. At the top of the Street of Steel, they find the huge house of the armorer, Tobo Mott. After shouldering his way in, a serving girl notices Ned's sigil and badge of office, and Tobo Mott quickly appears offering wine. Mott immediately tells Ned that his prices are not cheap, but his craftsmanship is unequaled in the Seven Kingdoms. He adds proudly that the Knight of Flowers buys all his armors from him and that he can work Valyrian steel. Ned lets the armorer go on for a while before he asks if Jon Arryn bought a falcon helm from him. Mott says that Lord Arryn bought nothing, only wanting to see the apprentice boy named Gendry. Any hint of friendliness leaves Mott when Ned asks to see the boy as well. In the hot stone barn that contains the forges, the armorer introduces Gendry and shows Ned a helmet that the boy has crafted. Ned notes that the unfinished helm is expertly shaped and offers to buy it. Gendry immediately grabs the helmet back, insisting it is not for sale. Mott rushes to offer apologies for Gendry's behavior, but Ned states that there is nothing to forgive. Ned asks Gendry what he and Jon Arryn talked about. Gendry explains that Lord Arryn asked about his age, if he was well treated, and about his mother. Ned asks about the boy's mother as well and is told that she is dead, but that she was an ill-house wench with blonde hair. Ned examines Gendry and notices a remarkable resemblance to a younger King Robert, especially his black hair and blue eyes. Ned asks Mott who paid the boy's apprentice fee. Mott claims he took the boy on for free since he was so strong. Ned does not believe this for a moment. Mott admits that an unknown lord paid twice the normal apprentice fee for Gendry and said the extra money was for his silence. Ned decides he likes Tobo Mott. Before he leaves, Ned tells Mott to send Gendry to him if the day comes when he wants to wield a sword instead of forge one. Ned also quips that if he ever wants a helm to frighten children, this will be the first place he visits. As he rejoins his guards outside, Ned still doesn't understand what Jon Arryn wanted with a king's bastard, nor why it led to his death. Catelyn and Sir Roderick are on the King's Road, headed north to Winterfell. It is raining, and Sir Roderick suggests Catelyn should cover her head to keep from taking a chill. Catelyn, however, enjoys the feel of the rain on her face and replies that it is only water. The warm southern rain reminds Catelyn of her childhood with Edmure, Lysa, and Littlefinger at Riverrun. Rains are much less pleasant in the north. Roderick states that it would be good to have a fire and a warm meal. Catelyn tells him that there is an inn at the crossroads, only a short way ahead. Catelyn remembers sleeping there many times when traveling with her father when she was young, when it was run by a fat woman named Marcia Heddle. Sir Roderick reminds her that an inn is too public and that it might be best to find a small holdfast if they do not want to be recognized. However, when they are passed unrecognized by a party of soldiers led by Lord Jason Mallister, a bannerman to her father, Catelyn decides that they will not be recognized at the inn. At the inn, they are met by Marshal Heddle, who gives them only a cursory look and tells them that there are only 2 rooms available. She gives them none of the smiles or mention of sweet cakes that Catelyn remembers from her girlhood. Catelyn thinks that from the crossroads, they could go west to Riverrun, where she could get advice from her father, who had been unwell lately. To the east is the Eyrie and her sister. Lysa might be able to provide some answers, but the road across the mountains is too dangerous. Eventually, Catelyn decides that it is best to continue north to Winterfell. Once past the neck, they can get aid from one of the bannermen of House Stark. Then she can tell the bannermen to send riders north to Robb with orders to place a watch on the King's Road. Catelyn turns her thought to the reliability of Riverrun's banners. If it comes to war, Catelyn is sure that her father will call his banners, but she is not sure they will all come. Robert's rebellion showed how unreliable the Riverlords can be, particularly the Freys, who arrived to aid their Tully overlords only after the Battle of the Trident had been won, leaving doubts as to which army they had come to join. Ever since, Catelyn's father has called Lord Walder Frey the late Lord Frey. Other banners, such as the Darys, Rygers, and Mootons, fought for King Aerys II Targaryen. Catelyn decides she must not let a war erupt. Sir Roderick comes to escort her to dinner, suggesting that they must hurry if they are to eat, and calling her by the customary "my lady." Catelyn decides it is much safer to pretend they are father and daughter. Sir Roderick agrees, but in the process he calls her "my lady" again and comments on how old ways die hard when he realizes his mistake. In the long and drafty common room, the benches are crowded with a wide variety of people. But Catelyn doesn't see anyone who might recognize her. Sir Roderick finds them a place by the kitchen where they are accosted by the singer Marillion, who asks about where they are from and where they are going. Catelyn answers the safest of the questions, saying they come from King's Landing. The singer tells them that it is his destination for the tourney of the hand. The singer is disappointed when Catelyn has not heard of him and proceeds to attempt to get paid silver for a song. Sir Roderick, believing that any healthy boy would prefer a sword to a lyre, tells him he might have a couple of coppers but would prefer tossing them down a well to hearing the boys howling. The singer then tells how he was made to sing for kings and high lords. Catelyn asks if Marillion has ever played for Lord Tully. The singer boasts that a chamber is kept for him at Riverrun and that the young Lord Tully is like a brother. This amuses Catelyn, who knows her brother has hated singers ever since one bedded a girl he liked. It is then that the door bangs open and the arrival of Tyrion Lannister is announced with a demand for room and a bath for Tyrion. When Tyrion is told that there are no rooms, he announces that his servants can sleep in the stable and quips that he needs only a small room. When Marcia Heddle repeats that there are no rooms, Tyrion takes a gold coin and flips it into the air. A free rider tells Tyrion he is welcome to take his room, and Tyrion flips the coin to the man. Tyrion declares that he wants some sort of roast fowl and the best wine sent up to his room, and asks the black brother Yoren to join him. Marillion, the singer, stands and offers to sing to Tyrion of his father's victory at King's Landing while he dines. Tyrion replies that such a song would surely ruin his supper. He is about to turn away when his eyes find Catelyn, and he comments that he was sorry to have missed her at Winterfell. Everyone in the inn is astonished, and every eye is turned to Catelyn as she stands. Catelyn decides to play her hand. She asks some of the men-at-arms in the room directly if their lords are true to her father, Lord Hostertully. The Brackens, Freys, and Wents are all represented in the room, and all answer with polite agreement. Tyrion is confused and asks what Catelyn is doing, even sniggering at one of the comments. Catelyn then tells the bannermen that Tyrion, while a guest in her home, sent an assassin to murder her son in his bed. In the name of King Robert and the lords they serve, Catelyn calls upon them to seize Tyrion and return him to Winterfell to await the king's justice. Catelyn cannot decide which is more satisfying, the sound of a dozen men drawing their swords or the look on Tyrion Lannister's face.
Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the month for the entire book, so please leave your questions down below so that I can compile them if you want them answered. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to come back for more. Thanks again. Bye.